Vasudevendra Yogindram Natva Jnanapradham Gurum Mumukshunam Hitataya Tatva Bodho Vidhiyate. Last week we saw the Sthoola Shariram. Just to quickly recapitulate what happened in all the last classes. Sadhana Chatushtaya Sampanna Adhikarinam. Those who have this qualification of Sadhana Chatushtayam, this fourfold qualification, Viveka, Vairagya, Shama, Dhamma, Shatka Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam. So for these people who have these fourfold qualifications, I am teaching Tatva Viveka. Then the question was asked, what was Tatva Viveka? Tatva Viveka kaha? Atma Satyam Tadanyat Sarvam Mityeti. The only truth, the only reality is Atma. Everything else other than that Atma is Mithya. So then the question is Atma kaha? Sthoola Sookshma Karana Sharira Vyatiriktaha Panchakosha Atitaha San Avastha Traya Sakshi Satchidananda Swarupaha San Yastishtati Sa Atma. And Atma, he defined Sthoola Sookshma Karana Sharira Vyatiriktaha as something different from, as something other than the Sthoola Sookshma Karana Shariras. And the second definition of Atma was Panchakosha Atitaha San. It is beyond the Panchakoshas, Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha, Anandamaya Kosha. And the witness of the three states, Jagrat, Swapna, Sushupti, Avastha Traya Sakshi, witness of the three states. So that's the third aspect of the Atma. Then he said finally the fourth aspect of Atma is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupaha. So that was how he started. And then we will go over today the Sookshma Sariram, because he said this is other than Sookshma Sarira. We saw in detail how it is other than the Sthoola Sharira, and he defined what was Sthoola Sharira, and now he will define what consists of this Sookshma Shariras. And now the method of logic that Adi Shankaracharya adopts most of the time is what we call Adhyaropa Apavadaha. Adhyaropa Apavadaha. Adhya means superimposition. The mental impression, the mental views, the thoughts that are superimposed on something else. And the typical example in Vedanta is that of the rope and the snake. The image or the illusory snake is superimposed on a rope. Reality is the rope. But the illusory snake, seeing the rope, we think it's a snake. So that illusory knowledge, that illusory understanding of you creating a mental snake and putting it on the rope, it's called superimposition. It's super because you're putting it over the rope, and it's imposition because you are imposing upon it. Imposing upon something that it is not. You are imposing upon a rope, a snake, which is it is not. So that's what's called superimposition. That negating that superimposition, in simple term, all that it means is defining what it is not. So defining, okay, the rope, it is not a snake, it is not whirling around, it doesn't move. So all these things, the negation. So the negation of what it is not, the negation of what we think it is. And then finally he will tell you what it is. That is called Adhyaropa Apavadaha, counter-arguing and disposing of all the untruth that was imposed upon something that was truth. So, apavadaha. So you have to remember all this. Throughout this teaching, you have to remember that we are talking about Atma. And now in the first part, we are talking about what it is not. Last class, we saw in detail that it is not your Sthoola Sharira. Now this class, he will discuss in detail why it is not your Sookshma Sharira. So it is not your Sthoola, it's not your Sookshma, it's not your Karana Sharira. Vyatiriktaha, other than that, this is beyond your Panchakosas. The A, B, C and D, the Sthoola, Sookshma, Karana, Sharira and the Panchakoshas are what are the superimpositions. They are the Adhyasa, the superimposition on the Atma, which it is not, like the snake was superimposed on the rope. And the second most important term that we have to understand in Vedanta is called Upadhi. Upadhi takes on another quality. Upadhi means it's not only superimposing but is also conditioning. So conditioning, in other words, we are conditioning the Atma with these qualities which it is not. So Upadhi. So they are called Upadhis. Then Adi Shankaracharya will tell you what it is. So then he says Atma is the witness of all the three states of waking, dreaming and sleeping, and it is Sat Chit Ananda Swarupaha. Okay. So it is other than Sthoola, Sookshma, Karana, Shariras, is other than the Panchakoshas, the fivefold subtle bodies, which are Annamaya Kosha, Pranamaya Kosha, Manomaya Kosha, Vijnanamaya Kosha and Anandamaya Kosha. So all these koshas, five koshas, it's beyond that. And what it is the witness of the three states, and it is Sat Chitananda. So one by one we will see in detail. So Adhyasa we saw already, it's a superimposition, it's a case of mistaken identity. And Upadhi, the conditioning, Upadhi is that which superimposes its quality on that to which it remains close to. The typical example is if you have a crystal, a quartz crystal which is colorless. Quartz crystal is colorless, and if you put it closer to a green light, it's going to take on that quality of that green light. Keep it closer to a red light, it will take the quality of the red light. It will appear as if it's red even though it is colorless. So that color is the Upadhi that superimposes itself on a pure crystal because it is close to the crystal. The same way, these Sthula, Sookshma, Karana, Shariras, which are closer to the Atma, so Karana, Sookshma and Sthula, in that order, closer to the Atma, superimpose the quality of an Atma, making us think that this is what we are. I am this body, I am this mind, I am this buddhi. So that's why Adi Shankaracharya said when he was asked who he was, first he said in his typical way, like we said, I am not this body, I am not the mind. Mano buddhi ahankara chittani naham. I am not this, I am not this, I am not. That's finally he said what he was. Shivoham, Shivoham, Chidananda Rupam, Shivoham, Shivoham. Now, in all this superimposition, in all these Upadhi conditionings, taking our own example of our own self, each one of us, if you rewind and go back to your childhood days, there was always this one person, whatever your name is, Kumar, Usha, Asha, whatever your names are, always there was this one person, the experiencer, and there was always this experience. The 2-year-old Mr. Anand, he was the 2-year-old. Then he was 4-year-old. Anand was still there, but he was 4-year-old. Then he was 10-year-old, he was still there. Now when he was 2-year-old, those situations around him were different. His body was of a certain size, so that time he thought that was him. And then a 4-year-old thought that that was him, and the 10-year-old Anand thought that was him, the 21-year-old thought Anand that was him, but this who he thought he was has changed so wildly. What he thought as a 4 years old has absolutely nothing compared to what he thought he was when he was 20 years old. So there was always this experiencer and the experience. So not only that I, that person called Anand, associated with the subtle bodies, the Karana, Sookshma, Sthoola Shariras, then after identifying this as me, then the second stage of identification was mine. These are my parents. I go to school, these are my books, these are my friends. So that was the world at that time, which completely changed over the time. The friends changed, the books changed, the schools changed, the colleges changed. Then the house, then the job. This is my job, this is my office, this is my boss, this is my worker, this is my subordinate, this is my computer. So endlessly. But there was all these endless things that we say this is me or mine have always been changing. But there was this one person that never changed, but he was constantly thinking that what it was, him was all this that was surrounding him, even though everything was changing every day almost. Even your body changes every day almost. So Adi Shankaracharya is negating all that. So that you, that Atma, should negate that I'm not this, I'm not this, I'm not that. So after negating everything, there's nothing else to negate, because the negator, who is negating, cannot negate himself. You cannot say I don't exist. Right? You cannot say I don't exist. So it is reference to that I, that you, that real you, that you are defining yourself in terms of all these things that are changing. So the reason we are spending time on this is because this is the crux of this entire teaching. It is based on this, is what Adi Shankaracharya is telling us, describing all these things in detail that we are really not. Now the logic here is so beautiful. Adi Shankaracharya starts with something that is very close to us, that we can know easily, that we can identify. We know, all of us know our body. So he starts with your body, your Sthoola Sharira, telling us this. So this is not your Atma, this is not this Atma, it's not your Sookshma Sharira, it's not your Atma. Then finally, he connects you what you really are. This Atma is not this, but the Atma is this Parabrahman. Jiva Brahma Aikyam. So the first chapter is the Adhikari, qualification, what you need. Second is Atma Tatva Vivekaha. Then he would say Jagat Ki Utpatti, how this entire world came about. Then he would tell you Jiva Brahma Aikyam. Then finally he will talk about moksha or liberation. So if you look at this style of teaching, if you look at this subject matter in this simple book, very short treatise, this is what religion is all about. Religion is all about this. What is religion? Do you need a religion to tell you how to behave? We really don't. How to behave is common sense. How to behave is common sense. You don't do to the other person what you don't want him or her to do to yourself. As simple as that. You don't need a religion to teach that. So what do you need a religion for? You need a religion to answer three important questions. What is me? Who is the real me? And what is my relationship to everything that is around here? In this world, this creation. And number three, that ultimate reality, Parabrahman or God, whatever you may call it, whatever name you give it, how am I related to this? How all these three things are related to it? Me, everything around me, and that ultimate reality, God, how all this is related. And if all this is one and the same, how is it that I can realize that oneness with that ultimate reality, Parabrahman or God? So Adi Shankaracharya is basically answered all these questions in this one small treatise called Tatva Bodh. So if you ask anyone, Hindu, what is the ultimate teaching of Hinduism? I don't think many of us would be able to answer. The ultimate teaching of Hinduism is this, that there's not only one God, but only God. Not only one God, but only God. The God is one, Brahman is one, and everything that I see in this universe, in this cosmos, is nothing but him or her. Not only one God, but only God. Because it is the same that the gold, a chunk of gold, is made into different forms of jewels, necklace, bracelet, and your bangles, all these. So every different form of all this is not only just gold, one gold, but only gold in all these ornaments. So nothing other than gold. So all these different manifestations, that's the ultimate teaching of Hinduism. And the beauty of Hinduism, more than all this, is it throws this challenge at you that this is what we teach. What we are teaching is that your Atma is none of this thing that you think you are, neither your body, nor your mind, nor your intellect, none of this, mano buddhi ahankara. What you think you are not that, none of that, but it is that Parabrahman, it is that supreme reality. And then you can realize that. That is a challenge. Challenge means you can realize God within you. And people have taken up the challenge time and again, have proved it, proved the teaching. Yes, I realize my oneness with the divinity. So that is why in Hinduism, every nook and corner, there are these great saints performing all these miracles. That because they have realized their oneness with the divinity, they have taken up the challenge, they have taken up this teaching and the challenge and validated it on themselves, right? Starting from Buddha, who was born as a Hindu, took up the challenge and validated it. Yes, every century there have been saint after saint after saints who have done this. So that is what a real religion is, and that is what Adi Shankara sets out to describe and define. Going into a little more explanation of these mistaken identities and upadhis to bring home certain example. How do we identify with the Sthoola Sharira that I am fair complexioned, I am dark, I am tall, I am short, I am thin, I am fat, I am sick, I am healthy, I am energetic. So how you are, all these words that I just used, what were those words? Was that real you, or we were talking about the body? Body. So I am dark, I am fair-skinned, I am tall. So the body, are you tall? Were you tall when you were 2-year-old? Were you short? Too short when you were 2-year-old? You didn't know until you grew up. So this tall, dark, fat, thin, very fat when you're 10-year-old. Maybe you were a chubby baby when you were 2-year-old. But all the chubby baby also changed. They became a thin person, thin teenager. And the most beautiful teenager, most charming teenager, turned into a heavyweight person, man or woman, down the line. So all this is that we were identifying with none of that. So that is Sthoola Sharira. So how did we identify with the Sookshma Sharira? I am happy, I am miserable, I am not in a good mood, I am angry, I am angry. So that is not the Atma, that is your Sookshma Shariras. Sookshma Shariras, you're happy, miserable, you're angry, you're hungry. Sthoola Sharira is hungry, but you feel it in your Sookshma Shariras, right? But the Sthoola Sharira and Sookshma Sharira is not you. Atma is not hungry. So that is just to bring home the example of how these upadhis are superimposed on the Atma.